All right, we are live. It is session 16 of Storm King's Thunder. This session is titled Svardborg. Last we left our intrepid party, our adventurers. They stole a small giant ship that they call punts. Now, to a giant, this is basically like a canoe where one or two of them can fit on. But to our players who are not giant, this is more to the lines of like a small sloop or something. So it fits them all pretty comfortably. They had to find a frost giant and a winter wolf guarding it, and were able to overtake him with just a little bit of a hiccup in the form of Sunlit, our tabaxi monk, being pounded into the snow in only about a hit or so. But that's just a small detail. So the party is heading through the sea of moving ice with Harshnag and friends in search for the frost giant's fortress that is called Svardborg. Now, we're going to pick up with the party sailing out into this frigid Iceland, this ocean, this sea called the Sea of Moving Ice. And you guys have been riding for, I'm going to say everyone gets a long rest after the adventures leading up to this point. So you've been traveling now on the boat for almost a full day. It's coming down to nighttime, and it's at this point that you realize that you're probably going to have to camp out at sea. Now, something about the Sea of Moving Ice is, as you probably guessed, it is literally a sea of moving icebergs, some the size of mountains, some the size of ships. It's just absolutely just, as you look out into it, all you see is this white wasteland of ice. But it's really kind of jarring to look at it because there's these different currents that pull you in every which way. And the ice is so stacked together that you don't really see any open water at many points. And one thing you guys have learned is that as you sail on this ocean, you don't sail in the traditional way. The currents are too strong and ever changing. So what you've done now that you've got out from the shore and into the sea itself is Harshnag is literally using the oars to push off of icebergs and catch different currents. So you'll be flowing one way kind of with the ice, and then when the opportune time comes, he'll push off an iceberg and push this punt into another current. And you guys have been doing this for hours. And it comes time to rest, and Harshnag tells you that the sea was not always actually a sea. And it's believed by the giants that the frost giants, that is, that their giant god, Thrym, who is the Titan god of cold and winter, actually smashed this entire wasteland, turning it into the Sea of Moving Ice when he believed that the giants have become stagnant. He apparently, this massive giant god, stepped out onto this barren wasteland and punched right through it, creating the Sea of Moving Ice. And he kind of just explains this to you guys through small talk because there's not a whole lot to do as you're moving through current to current. And he tells you that Thrym, the Titan god of the frost giants, eventually was defeated. And when he died, he fell flat on the ground in the north and was buried by snow. And it is said that the spine of the world, the most northern mapped part of Faerun, is actually Thrym's back, buried in the snow, and that his dying body actually protects the south of Faerun from the cold winters that is the north. Kind of tells you guys this as you're pushing from iceberg to iceberg. The weather is absolutely cold. Luckily for you guys, you picked up your Bryn Shander Yeti coats. So you tucked them close into you guys as you're shivering even through the thick Yeti fur. Any exposed skin instantly feels the sharp bite of this cold ocean that you sail on. And all you really hear when you're not talking is the sound of ice grinding on the boat. He tells you that it's all okay for you to rest and that it's going to be at least another day before we're in position. What is everyone doing as the night takes to the ocean and all you see is now blackness and just the sound of ice scraping against this wooden boat that you find yourself in?
if it's a clear night, Livy would probably be checking out the constellations and whatnot. Probably pointing them out, adding into whatever story, like, well, Thur may have done that, but here is this constellation. Do you see it?
Absolutely. And the stars are absolutely beautiful out here in the ocean. And it is a clear night in the form of that. Obviously, there's the howling winter winds on the ocean, but as we come closer to the Feast of the Moon, which is actually like the official beginning of winter, which as Sunlit, as you learn this, that we're actually not in what these Eastern folk call winter, that there's going to be worse cold coming in a couple of weeks, that thought to you is probably absolutely terrifying. Is anybody else doing anything particular as Livy's pointing to the constellations and telling you all kinds of tales about great gods and deities and heroes that have been mapped in the stars?
Octavius, warned from all the festive, would just be slowly falling asleep underneath the stars, resting at the bow of the giant's boat. Falling asleep slowly. Barely able to listen to the...
Octavius eventually falls asleep to the stories of Livy. Belladora, Cyric, and Barrick eventually find uncomforted sleep. What about Sunlit? What's she doing?
She wants to talk to Harshnag for a minute.
All right. He's actually not said a whole lot after this. Like that, basically the story of Thrym was kind of the last time he talked, and that was like over hours ago. But absolutely, he's just kind of focused on the night and kind of like pushing. He says that you guys are on a good current right now, so there's not really much like switching of the currents that you have to do for the next little bit. But yeah, he's still up and staying alert.
So, the Mr. Harshnag.
He just kind of grunts at you.
I understand I'm just a small folk and so terribly out of my element, but you spoke of this god that or such that as his spine is the mountains and such, but why is it so cold? And if you said this isn't even the winter yet, why would anybody live here?
Well, us frost giants are accustomed to this weather. I don't even feel the cold. I suppose that a lot of other northerners get used to it as well.
I guess, but I just haven't seen anything attractive about any of this. And now we're going to a place where you're hated. I almost died to a frost giant just within a day ago. I'm not sure exactly what is advantageous for us to go here.
Well, if you remember, we're looking for the talisman to gain entry to the Eye of the Allfather.
Yes, and I understand that, but isn't there a way that we could have maybe just baited them to us rather than going to the heart? It just sounds like you're going into a hornet's nest, if you know what that is.
Yes, I'm not going to disagree. This is going to be an absolutely dangerous mission. I believe I warned you all in advance.
No, and I'm not saying that you didn't justly, but you're not bringing...
The thing about and he actually calls it the Oracle's Lens, is that Strovod's not just going to carry that around.
Okay.
It's more of an artifact than anything.
No, and I fully understand. And I'm not trying to be defiant. Don't think that's the case.
I understand your worries. I'm not going to lie to you, Sunlit. We all could die here. But I believe that getting ahead of this war, finding out from the Oracle what's going on and how to get to Maelstrom. I feel like that's the key. If we can figure out what's going on with the Storm Giants, figure out what happened to Hecaton, then maybe we can stop this.
I agree, and that would be very good for my friends to see. I don't know. I don't even know.
Princess Sarissa, I believe, is who you're talking about.
Yes, and
I've never met her.
I did that stumble on purpose, but it's we are in the sea right now, right?
Yes.
She said if I ever needed her help and I was in the sea again, I could call for her. Do you think she'd come?
I mean, you could try. I'm sure with the death of her father, or at least the missing, believed death of her father, she probably has a lot on her plate. Not a whole lot is known about Maelstrom, where these storm giants live. Very few have even been there.
I understand that, but there's not much known about a relationship between a tabaxi and a storm giant as well. We were like best friends there for a few days. They're frost giant king. Well, I guess you're not the king, but
Far from it.
I don't know. I'm nervous energy. I'm very sorry. It's just, being so close to death yesterday was very eye-opening to me, and I'm very sorry for talking your ear off, and I don't really like to talk. And
you have no reason to apologize. I wish I could say I was steering you away from death, but
no, you're
frankly,
pushing straight towards it, I believe.
I believe so too.
And you're not bringing seven giants that are going to be able-bodied and be able to take on this horde. You're bringing 7.
Taking them on is not my idea. Ideally, we slip in and out before they know we're there. The thing about the frost giants, the thing that Thrym has taught them, is that to stay stagnant is an insult to frost giants. They believe that they should be ever moving and conquering. So Strovad has many ships. His most prized possession is the Krigvind. I believe it translates in common to Warwind. And you see, more often than not, he's out hunting and raiding. And he sends many fleets off to raid the small folk villages.
So you're saying there's a large chance that we'll be there with...
I'm saying there's a chance that, with any luck, Strovad and his giant ship, the Krigvind, will not be there.
One can hope. Thank you for the information. Thank you so much. I'm going to rest now and see if I can ever get warm. Doesn't seem possible.
Have a good night's rest, Sunlit.
And before she does, lay down to try to rest, and I can imagine 4 of them at least have been, well, the 3 of them, because why would Morandel do anything that's helpful? But the 3 of them have probably been laying together to try to at least use body heat to stay warm. And she kind of leans over the edge of the boat. She doesn't really like water very much at all, especially with the ordeal that she went through with Sarissa and so on and so forth. And she just kind of looks into the water and says, "My friend, I really may need your help here soon. So sorry to hear about your father. I'll call you if I need you." And she just runs her hand across the water and makes like maybe a heart with her finger in the water.
And it is frightfully cold.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But you do so. Harshnag doesn't really say another word.
Yeah, and then Sunlit snuggles up next to Livy like she probably has been doing for days. And
yeah, absolutely. What about Warndell? Warndell doing anything in this little boat ride, or is he catching some shut-eye?
No. I figure up until now, all of you become accustomed to Warren's grumpiness, his dourness, perhaps unsufferable for some of you. Over the past couple days, anybody who's taken notice may have noticed he's more quiet, more reserved. He tends to have worry lines in the corner of his eyes. Doesn't look like he's getting much sleep. Bit of a bags under his eyes. As he settles into this ship, though, this boat, he goes all the way to the back point of this giant canoe, essentially. Lounges back a little bit. You can see frost forming at the tips of his fingers. Lightning kind of crackles across his fingertips as he flips a coin between them. And he just smiles. He stares up. He listens to Livy talk about the constellations and stares up to the sky. All the while, just a smile on his face as he twirls his mustache. I think we'll have a grand old time, chaps. A grand old time. That's it.
Absolutely. So Warrendale kind of sits there and he has a big smile on his face. Livy, you notice after a couple hours that most of the people have fallen asleep. You probably get pretty tired yourself. Sunlight is curled in. I imagine that whenever Warrendale gets cold, he kind of just fire bolts from one hand to another just to kind of warm up his tips of his fingers for a little bit. But nonetheless, you all find a night's rest and you wake up just as you fell asleep in the sea of ever-moving ice. The cold has not left. Frost has kind of like actually started to freeze chunks of the Yeti coat. So when you wake up, it's really stiff and you kind of got to shake off all the chunks of ice. You hear Barrick just like groaning how sore his bones are. This old kind of knight that's followed you guys. Belladora complains that she hasn't got a good night of beauty rest in quite some time. But you all find your long rest. You get enough rest to not be exhausted. And a couple more hours go by. This time, a bit more of the switching from current to current. Push off of one. You see like a big mountain-size iceberg coming towards you guys, and Harshnag has to kind of make a quick move because it's like literally just like burling past, so he shifts over into another current and just barely misses the boat, which would have just like instantly just ran through it with no problem. And he tells you that Svardborg will probably be there within half of the day before the sun hits the highest point. And it's at this point, as you're riding northward on one of these fairly quick moving currents. It's kind of weird how like the speeds change. It's almost like rows of like swimming rows. But you see like some are moving fast, some are moving slow, and it's just going every which way. It's probably pretty disorienting. But as you're kind of whoever's at the head of the ship would notice that about 50 feet up ahead there's like an opening in the moving ice, and I'll need a perception check from somebody. Whoever's at the front of the boat. It could be any of you. It can be all of you. Whoever's paying attention.
Yeah, I'm up there. I'll roll one.
Go for it. Lydia rolled a 12.
Better than me.
Octavius rolled a 7. And since nobody else rolled, I'll say that it took you a little longer than you don't know how you. Oh, you're rolling too? Okay, give me a second.
Not.
Sunlet's being thorough as she looks.
Yeah.
13. All right, so it's at about 40 feet that you see ahead of you guys what looks like bubbling water and like little tiny chunks of ice. They actually start off fairly big, and they're kind of just like tumbling in this one spot in the water. But as you're looking, Sunlit, you notice that the chunks of ice are actually getting a little bit smaller. And the ship is kind of like moving, so it's like 40 feet. And then by the time you like start to open up your mouth, you're already like 35 feet.
Mm-hmm.
You just notice that's a bit strange. Harshnag's obviously preoccupied with kind of watching the currents and whatnot. He's at the back of the boat.
Mr. Harshnag, and she started shouting. What is that?
Looks up at the boiling or the water, and well, it's definitely not something good. You're now about 30 feet away, 25 feet away. And then to your west,
You avoid that.
he looks around, and it's at this point that you realize that on your left or your westward, there's like a big kind of like flat chunk of iceberg that's like basically kind of boxing you in on both sides. You're kind of like stuck on this one, like almost like passing two transports, one going one way, one going the other way. The one on your west is like only about 5 feet high, so you could actually like reach up and grab on top if you really wanted to. And then the other one is much, much higher. It's almost like a wall. And then you notice like northwest, a piece of like the plateau of this iceberg actually burst away like a blowhole, and water actually shoots up, and you just see like a big plume of steam burst out of this basically makeshift iceberg floor. I can't deviate the current current. This isn't good. Everyone on guard. And then it's at this point that Siric's like, what's going on? And as go ahead.
Octavius would just shout to the ship, prepare yourselves.
And it's at
This could get ugly.
it's at that point, as soon as Octavius says that, he yells out, prepare yourself. You hear the grinding of ice, like something's churning through it. And then even more peculiar, you hear the sound of boiling water. You hear the sound of like almost like a steam kettle. Like steam is just pouring out of this hole that was just shot up about 10 feet away from you guys. And bursting up out of that hole is this horrible, large, half the size of Harshnag, centipede-like creature. It has these long spikes going all down its back that are glowing this bright ember red. And it has these 4 tentacles, 2 pointing downwards and 2 pointing upwards, not tentacles, sorry. Like big giant whiskers. And as it crawls out of the ice, it opens up its kind of like wingspan in front of it and has like this mass of like a cobra, but an insect-like face. And as it jumps out of the hole, you see hundreds of legs kind of crawling out, and it charges right at Harshnag, who kind of drops the oar momentarily. It kind of comes down with a thud. You guys got to get out of the way. And he grabs onto the creature, which just bowls into him. As he grabs onto this large centipede-like creature, you hear the burning of skin and you smell the burning of flesh. And Harshnag lets out a troubled grunt and flips the creature right above his head. And there's this moment where this chunks of ice are kind of slowly falling on you, but they're melting and burning as they do so, turning into water. You get splashed with water. You feel the heat just pouring off this creature. Harshnag grabs it by the face and flips it over and slams it into the wall that's next to you guys, kind of breaking away. As it does so, it lands in the water and kind of just tunnels down. And you see that as it's like touches the ice, it just instantly starts to melt it away and smash it. And then bursting ahead is another one of these creatures. Harshnag yells out, protect the ship! Don't let them break the ship! And it's at that point that I'll get you guys to roll initiative. And I'll screen share you because I just forgot that I can actually share to you what you guys actually see. The pros of Fantasy Grounds. And for those who can't see Fantasy Grounds, they are what most people would probably know as a Remmer has. So let's get them in initiative.
That creature looks like one of my kids' Pokemon toys.
This is a very nasty Pokemon. All right, so I'm just going to roll the NPCs initiatives here. Give me a quick second. Should have did this.
Well, you guys all rolled shitty for your initiative.
And then we'll give him a...
I think Livy's just in complete dazzlement of warmth. What?
Yeah, they just
It's just creepy.
emanate a tremendous amount of heat too. Like you feel it as they come into proximity. It's like you get a temperature change as they do so. All right, so actually, interesting. At the top of the initiative is Sirik, who has his trusty short sword and a dart. So there's not really a whole lot he can do. He's just like, these creatures are massive. What do we do?
Where are the creatures in there?
There's one directly in front of you, so you're about 20 feet away now
Not in
and
that order.
kind of heading to it. Oh, what's that, sir?
Not in the order.
Oh yeah, they're in there. I just haven't showed them on the tracker.
There you go.
You should see them now. So he kind of fumbles around and starts to ready a dart. Warrendale, you're the next to act. You see one of these young Remmerhaz is in front of you. The other one has started to burrow under the water. It just leaves a pool of boiling water next to it, smashing away that one side of the iceberg wall that you guys are on. To your west or left is another kind of like 5 foot high but long, expansive chunk of iceberg that you could hop off onto if you wanted to, or you're just going to start beelining right towards this Remmerhaz.
Okay. And that's the one iceberg on the left. Is the one on the other side of us the same thing that we can get onto, or is that like a much bigger one?
That one was bigger, but as Harshnag slammed the creature into it, it's kind of split it into 2 chunks, but they're not so much flat as just like big chunks of ice that are kind of floating around. You could try to jump off onto it if you wanted, but the one to your west is much like flatter and almost kind of like a ground or a floor.
Nope, I don't want to jump onto it yet. Let me open up my sheet and see what we got here. I'm at the back of the ship, so it's still within 30 feet of me, I would assume, or
I'm on mute. Yes, you're in 30 feet.
okay. Guess it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I'm just going to use a cantrip in this case then until I get everybody else can get a chance. So Warren will stand up from the back of the boat, stretch out his hands and kind of crack his knuckles a little bit, shrug his shoulders. All the while, still smile. You can see the edges of his mustache are all twirled out nicely. He's waxed these things up a little bit and curled them up into that old circusman's type style. I'm just going to go with an acid splash at the moment for this. Actually, no. I'll do shocking grasp. Yeah. I don't know how to target him, but this is not, well, it doesn't matter anyway. So, yeah, you can see the electricity sparkle off of his fingertips a little bit. Traces out around his body, shoots out, obviously completely missing this thing, just kind of dances across one of the icebergs on the right-hand side. Well, that ain't going to do anything very well. You boys need to take care of these beasts. So need do some of your fancy work or something. And that was a complete miss. So
absolutely. So a spark of lightning kind of comes from your fingertips, but doesn't even come close to affecting the creature. And it's the one directly in front of you that you can still see that's up next. And it lets out this horrid, like insectoid, like hissing noise and starts to just, some of its legs are kind of climbing on chunks of the iceberg. You just hear these like skittering of all these hundreds of legs that are coming through, and it's kind of dipping and dodging and diving into the water, coming up and down. And again, Harshnag yells out that we can't let it hit the ship, we'll be stranded. And he kind of like stands up momentarily, which rocks the ship tremendously. You're gonna need everyone to give me a dexterity save to see if you like can hang on for dear life as Harshnag just jumps up and is like standing on this ship.
Saving throw?
Yep. Nice. Octavios, you're legitimately knocked overboard into the ice cold water. Warrendale, you fall prone. Everybody else is actually good.
I got a 23.
No,
Sorry. Who was I seeing? No, that was your attack. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that was my shitty attack, yeah.
Yeah. No, Sunlit. Yeah, sorry. It's Sunlit and Octavios. You don't fall in the water, though, Sunlit, luckily. That'd be a traumatic experience for you. But you almost fall into the water. Your paw kind of like brushes it momentarily. You see Octavios come tumbling over you, a splash, and then instant like yelling of cold. And then Harshnag stands up and he grabs onto this creature's face. And as he does so, he starts burning his skin away again, and the creature is going to attack into him. And we'll see how that goes. So, where's my boy Harshnag? It misses on its attack. So it kind of bites into Harshnag, pushing him to the side. And then he kind of holds and just takes this burning damage just from touching the creature, though. And then the next one up is another one that comes bursting out. He pushes away the Rimmer has momentarily and just yells for everyone to like jump off the ship, like get off the ship or they're going to break this. And the other one jumps out of the water and just slams into him again. Let's see how that goes. Luckily, another miss. Belladora is up. Sunlit, you can go while I do a couple of NPC things.
Yeah, so she'll use half her movement to get up. Or half of her normal movement. And then, all right. So just here. Go.
What you got planned for us?
Okay. So, yes, I'm going to double my movement speed until the end of this turn, which makes it 80 feet. Like, that's really ridiculous. But I still use half of it when I get up, right? Regardless of what the freaking number is.
Yep.
That's so stupid. Anyway, so yeah, so I still have my full movement left, but whatever. So I get up and I look in the water and Octavius is in the water, right?
Yes.
I'm going to take my weapon that has a long chain on it with a big old, I don't know, bludgeoning end to it. And I sling that in the water towards, not to hit him, but just to fish him out towards Octavius to pull him back into the boat at least.
Sounds good. Anything else?
After I do that, I would like to move off of the boat like I was told.
All right, so you kind of you shoot your chain out. It's long enough, I believe we agreed on like 10 feet reach, right?
Yeah, 10 or 15 or something like that.
Yeah, so you kind of dangle it out into the water and you jump off to the side. So you're basically like fishing for an Octavius right now with your chain whip, your chain comma. Waiting anxiously for him to grab on as you super speed jump up and then jump off. As you feel like the kind of slick ice underneath your feet, you realize that it's pretty slippery, so you're gonna have to be careful. And as you do so, just moving on it is actually difficult terrain for how slippery it is. But nonetheless, you're kind of just sitting there and you yell for Octavius to like grab hold. Livy, you're up next as what you see is Bella. Go ahead.
Yeah. What about with my cat claws?
Cat claws?
Makes it so that I can climb on things and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you'll have I'll say that it'll help you definitely. It's still going to be difficult terrain though.
You know what I mean? But you see what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah, I know what you're saying. It will help you in advance. You'll see how it will help you.
Okay.
But for right now, still difficult terrain.
Yeah.
Livy, you're up next as Belladora kind of beside you pulls out one of her hand crossbows, shoots it into the creature, and she kind of barrel rolls out with Sunlit. Sir Beric also unloads one of his crossbows, not having time to reload it, kind of drops it on the ground and hops up. Harshnag pulls out Gert and swings into the one that's right next to you guys on your east. The Remoraz is actually like pretty much starting to climb up on it, and you start hearing the cracking and burning of wood. And as he swings, he misses, and then he just yells out like a and grabs onto it and tackles it into the water. You hear this absolutely massive like cannonball splash of like boiling hot water, and see Harshnag and the Remoraz momentarily go underwater as there's still one up in front of you guys too.
Lovely. Livy is going to definitely scramble off onto one of the icebergs with everyone else as she pulls out her rapier, and if one is within range of her to be able to attack with it, she will. Otherwise, she is preparing herself for when this thing, if it tries to come at them.
Yeah, so you can, because basically the one is like kind of right in front of you, like about 5 feet away from the ship. So you can kind of ready yourself on the western flat iceberg and just kind of like stand up next to it and kind of stab into it.
Awesome. That is what we're doing, and rolling for an attack.
Definitely a hit.
Ooh, that's nice.
If you're gonna do direct damage, it's number 1. That is the one that you can see.
Yes, champion. Sorry, I'm like going. That's a crit. No, you're not. You're not a champion fighter.
You're champion in my heart.
That's sweet. Let's roll this at least for 7 points of piercing.
Nice.
She just scrambles up.
Stab into one of the creatures, kind of finding purchase in between one of its many legs into this like burning joint. As you stab into it, you just kind of just feel the heat emanating off this creature. It's kind of weird because you see that the ice that's next to it is just kind of melting in its proximity. Next up is Octavios, who's in the water, but you hear Sunlit yell, "Grab hold!" And then you see this chain kind of comma dangling, and she has her claws like raked into the ice and is just kind of standing there. Same for you, Livy. Obviously, it's a little bit difficult to move. But you, Octavius, you see the chain kind of in the water as you're splashing around. It's horrendously cold. Normally, with how cold it was going to be, you were going to be at disadvantage to get out. But now that Sunlit threw down the chain, that kind of cancels each other out. So you're at regular motion to climb out. And
I believe that Octavius will be kind of in shock from the shock of the cold water, and he would slowly but surely reach for the chain, kind of trying to grasp what was happening. I'm sure his brain almost freezing. As he grabs onto the chain, hopefully Sunlit would pull him out, and he was standing there just shaking. All of a sudden, something would come over him, and he's going to cast Spirit Guardian. No. Yeah. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, yep. Spirit Guardian.
Cool. Yeah, so it creates a 15-foot radius around you, and basically creatures that you pick will get hit by these spiritual guardians that you summon forth on the beginning of their turns if they're in radius. So on their turn, they're going to
basically,
go ahead.
I'm just going to protect our group and Harshnag if the spell applies to him as well.
All right, so you're going to rely on Sunlit to pull you out of the water then, as you're kind of grabbing onto the chain?
Yeah, I'm going to, hopefully it'll be like a mutual thing.
Yeah. Got you. Sounds good. So yeah, you kind of yell back out to her that you need help. It's cold, and you cast Spirit Guardian, which will definitely affect the creature on its turn. You still haven't seen Harshnag come up from the water yet, and you just see to your left or right the bubbling and kind of like splashing around violently underneath. Sirik is up next, and it's just you and it's just Warrendell and Sirik on the boat. He looks to you and just like, I think we should get off. And he kind of scuttles up and draws his short sword. As he's kind of walking up to the creature, he readies himself and kind of swings into it. Missing. Warrendell, you're up next, as you now are the only person left on the ship.
Warren nods at this young lad as he's getting off, stands up and he stares at this centipedal creature off into the distance. You can see the spark of energy in his eyes a little bit. He seems to be studying it for a moment. And with that, the wind picks up a little bit and it blows him off to the side. I'm just going to use True Strike to get the insight for it, so I get advantage on the next attack, and then that gives me 10 foot of movement. So I'm going to use that to get over onto the iceberg. And my movement, just move away from this thing as far as I can get from it.
Yeah, so the iceberg that you guys find yourself on, this kind of flat one, is about just 30 feet in diameter. So there's a decent amount of room to move around. But you would notice as you kind of like, with a whirl of wind, kind of push yourself up and skirt across the ice, that as the creature is like, its attention is now drawn to you guys, you just see that it's starting to melt the iceberg that you guys are on. With that, you ready your True Strike, preparing for the assault, and the creature's up next, and it's Sirik and Livy who's in front of it, and the creature kind of rears up again, and it's gonna slam its cobra-like head into Livy and try to bite onto her. And sorry, I actually forgot something pretty important. Livy, and
Spirit Guardian.
yes, that too, also very important. Does that require, what kind of save does that require? Looking it up, wisdom save. So we'll resolve that first. And then the bad news, it fails. So go ahead and roll your max damage on, or your full damage on whoever has number 1. Livy, as you and Cyric stab into this creature, though, literally what seems like almost lava squirts out of it. And just by hitting this creature, you're going to take 7 points of fire damage. Cyric is going to take, as he cuts into it, another 7 points of fire damage. You kind of burn as the, like, almost like lava is pouring out of this creature. Its blood is almost like that, and then it's going to try to bite into you, Livy. And did you do your damage to it, Dan, or do I need to write it in?
You're gonna need to write it in for me. Sorry.
All right, no worries.
How do you target again? I'm sorry.
There's a couple ways. The most easiest way is just to roll your dice regularly, and then if you hit, just drop your damage dice onto the creature that you're hitting. You can also, on your turn, control click the creature, and that will target it for you. Livy, the creature does hit you, so it bites into you, and you take 30 more damage. I didn't drop that onto you, but I believe that puts you in a pretty rough position.
Like dead position.
Oh, she's just going to take a quick nap on the job. So good luck, guys.
The creature lets out another one of these roars. Yeah, these things just hit like tricks. Jeez. And it's at that point Livy hits the ground, and as she does so, it kind of sends her like sliding back towards we'll say sliding back towards Sunlit. You just see Livy kind of sliding across the ice, unconscious. Next up is the Rammerhaz that is with Harshnag underneath the water, and you see it kind of like rear its head up, coming out of the water momentarily. Harshnag's got it by the throat, and it comes back down and tries to bite him, and it misses. Next up is Sunlit while the NPCs do their things. Go ahead and do your attack.
All right. So seeing that Octavius didn't pull himself out as she expected, I am going to use my movement, and I would like to make an acrobatic move to kind of sling the chain over my shoulder and do like a huge like dive roll. So using my momentum rather than my strength, because she doesn't have a lot of that. To pull him out of the water. Again, digging her claws in so that she gets some good traction.
Absolutely.
So can I make an acrobatics roll instead of a athletics check?
And sorry, you're trying to pull Octavius?
Yeah, she's just kind of digging in hard.
Yeah.
With pain.
Not acrobatics though. It unfortunately is definitely athletics to pull him out. There's really no way that you can.
It's not her. I was trying to get away from that.
But I will say, with him kind of working with you and you working and your claws, I will say that you are able to get advantage because you're not in the water freezing your balls off.
Sure.
There you go. Octavius, you feel the tugging on the rope, and you now know it's time. And as your angelic spiritual guardians are kind of flying around and just ramming into these two creatures, hitting them for 15 and 8 damage apiece, radiant damage, you're pulled out of the water. As you come to, you pull yourself up, and you look on the ice, and this horrible creature is just kind of starting to crawl across it. And you see across about 15 feet away Livy's unconscious body. And then obviously everybody else that's standing there.
Immediately, I would run over to. Yeah,
absolutely. First up, anything else, Sunlit?
Well, that's got to be my action, right?
Yeah. Bonus action, nothing going
on. Yeah, as a bonus action, I would like to don't think I can do that. It's just I think I have to attack first. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, you can't use your bonus strike unless you attack.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, so no.
All right.
No.
So then, Livy, unfortunately, you have to make your first death saving throw. And then next up is actually Octavius. You see that Livy definitely is not looking too good. On to you, Mr. Wren.
All right, yeah, I would immediately run over to Livy, kneel down beside her, and put my hand slowly on her chest, on her armor, on her,
Nah.
you know what I mean.
Yep.
And then I would cast Cure Wounds on Livy. I can do that from here, I think.
Yes, sir. Healed for 10 points. You come back to consciousness, Livy, and you just feel that your armor that you're wearing is like burning hot as this creature just like slammed into you and bit onto you, knocking you unconscious. You see Octavio standing over you, the light of his healing kind of emanating from his hand. Anything else, Octavius?
Yeah, I can't really do a bonus action spell after that, can
I? Not a spell. If you have any bonus action stuff, nope.
I'm done.
All right. Next up is Warrendell with Cyric kind of yelling out in pain that like it hurts to hit these things. We can't engage in melee combat. We got to fall back, and he kind of starts to use his action to disengage because he can't take too many hits like that. Sir Beric charged in on his turn and started meleeing anyways, and you see this kind of lava-like blood splashing up on him, but he just grunts out in anger, yelling at the beast to stay back. Warren, you're now up.
Seeing the others get hurt, he has no intention of moving in anyway. Warren will let his feet rest down on the ground as he kneels down a little, puts both hands on this cold, partially melting iceberg. You can see the crackle of electricity course down his arms, across the rivulets of water, across this iceberg, towards the creature. Let's see if I can make this thing target. I can just drag the dice right over onto it, right?
Yep, correct.
And which one is it, one or two?
One is the one that's engaged with you guys.
All right. Cool. Wow, I'm rolling great tonight.
We're off to a good start.
Then apparently it follows the wrong rivulet of water and goes off to the side and zaps a goldfish in the water or something.
Yes, there is one dead seal that just gets zapped really bad.
Son of a beach. And yeah, that's it. I'm not going to use a bonus action for nothing.
All right. Next up is the Remmerhaz. Now that Sir Beric has engaged with it, its attention is fully on him. It goes in for a biting attack, basically bursting away a chunk of the ice and kind of melting into it. And you start to hear like as the iceberg that you guys are standing on starts to split right down the center of it. He's kind of just standing there with his shield and his maul at this point, and he holds it up and just, "Get back, you foul creature!" And it misses. Next up is the one that's engaged with Harshnag. It is going to try to bite him. It's missing, but he takes the fire damage from being in combat with it. And next up is Sunlit and the NPCs. So go ahead, Sunlit, and do your turn.
Okay, so I didn't move last turn, right?
No.
Okay. So I would like to I'm gonna use that ability again. So if I move 0, I can do it again. So I double my movement speed.
Yep.
I'm going to grab my the end of my my new weapon. I don't know, I haven't picked a name for it yet. I would need to do that. And coil it up, put it on my waist like I usually do. And she kind of moves further away, probably near where Warrendell is, and she looks at him. She's seen the amount of struggle in which that he's had, and she starts to channel her chi, and it's going to use a key point. I'm going to make 3 of my Radiant Sunbolt attacks at this creature.
Sounds good.
And yeah, we're going to do that.
Sun tack away.
Sun.
Doof, doof, doof.
Attack, attack, attack. Let's do this. All right, so it is number 1 or number 2?
Number 1, sir.
Okay.
Roll better than me.
I can only see 2.
Hopefully we're not going to have another night of sans good rolls on fantasy grounds. Although all the NPCs are rolling fine at least.
Yeah, that's always amazing. Thanks.
I always roll good for initiative. It seems like I'm always first.
It's true. There's 1 hit.
Yeah.
Sunlet's already broken the curse. Poof, one of these radiant lights shoot through, hitting the creature, bloodying it as it rears back. Another big splurt of this like glowing hot blood kind of just goes everywhere. Sir Barrick holds up his shield, kind of covering it. The next attack misses, and the third attack finds purchase right in the creature's face as it's starting to rear down again and attack Barrick. You hit him right in the face and kind of knock him back. Total of 6 more damage falling on it. Both creatures are now bloodied as Belladora and steps back and unleashes another bolt, slamming into the creature. One of its legs are blown away. Harshnag swinging. Don't worry, I'll come back to you. Harshnag swings into the other one, chunking out another piece. They're kind of rolling around in the water, just like a snake, a python in water trying to capture this, capture like an alligator or something. It's just like squeezing into Harshnag, and then Barrick is standing forth and kind of blocking and hitting. What do you have left, Sunlit?
Okay, so you said the ice is splitting, right?
Yes.
He wants to move now. It's hard terrain, right?
Give me an acrobatics check, and you might be able to nullify that.
Okay.
Only because of your claws.
Yeah. Oh yeah, apparently.
You nullify.
All right, so she would like to get herself on the same side that Sir Barrick is on.
Right. He's kind of standing, like his legs are basically 1 on each side yet. He hasn't noticed as he's like right in front of this creature and it's making a tremendous amount of noise. His legs are like 1 on one side, 1 on the other side. He doesn't even know it's splitting yet.
All right, well, I want to be on the same side as the creature.
Okay.
But I want as far away from the creature as you'll allow me to be. Obviously,
yep.
I don't want.
So 30, like if you're gonna basically stay right on the edge, you can get a full like 30 away, but if you want to not be on the edge, maybe like 25.
Okay, yeah, that sounds perfect. And as I run by Sir Barrick, I go, there's a split and it's right between your legs. I know that sounds weird, but as she's running
by, you're right, this looks like it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
Next up is Livy, who's back to conscious life. You look up, and Sir Barrick is head-on taking this creature. Blood's just splattering all over him, burning into his chainmail armor that he's wearing. Sunlit just blasted 3 lights of this energy, slamming into the creature. You see that it's badly injured now. Many of its legs are broken. It has like an eye that's kind of like burnt by radiant.
When you say badly injured, are we talking teetering on the edge of living and dead, or
no, we're talking just
many good hits left in it?
We're talking bloodied, so you have at least done half of its hit points through the combat.
Yeah, then I'm going to go with her initial disengage, so she doesn't get destroyed once again.
You're not in melee with it. He kind of knocked you all the way back, so you're about 15 feet away.
Wonderful. She's going to keep backing up and 2 attacks with her crossbow.
Shoot away.
At a distance, there's 1.
Hit.
There's 2.
Not a hit.
Slips a little on the ice, obviously, but let's see what. Ooh, 11 points of piercing. As she tries to keep 30 feet between her and it.
All right.
And thank you, Tibius. Thank you.
Yes. Octavius, Livy picks herself back up, kind of rearing back a bit, taking about like 5-10 feet behind you, and pulls out her crossbow and just fires off 2 quick shots into the creature. You feel the ice starting to break more and more. It's not going to become an issue on your turn, at least this turn. But what do you wish to do?
seeing that Livia is at least up and moving around and she seems all right, Octavius is filled with rage at the creature. He runs straight forward at it, ripping his warhammer off of his belt and holding it high above his head. He jumps into the air and smashes it into the creature's forehead. 15 hit.
Muted. Definitely hits, and then after you're done your turn, roll your spirit guardian damage for me again. But finish your turn first. Nice. 9 more damage comes to him. Now that means that you in turn are going to take some fire damage as splashing up after you slam into it with your warhammer. You take a total of almost max damage, 10.
Gladly, and Octavius will just laugh as he's taking the damage.
Feels good to Octavius. The first Rimmer has rolled a 12 on its wisdom save and an 8, so I'm assuming they both fail that. So go ahead and roll your damage. I missed that on their actual turns.
Right.
Apologies.
Let's see if I can do this for them. There's one.
Yep. Very nice. Describe what it looks like actually, as that kind of changes your turn dramatically. You finish it off. So between your spirit guardians and you hitting it, you did enough damage to finish it off. What does it look like?
Yeah, so as Octavius lands with his warhammer directly on this whacked out millipede's forehead, he basically smashes it into the ground. You can hear the neck of it snap, and Octavius stands victorious as the fire damage splashes up and hits him.
Absolutely.
Hopefully
nice
the one with Harshnag is a little bit worse off too.
Yeah, it looks pretty beat up. Harshnag's even though he's fighting in water and it's really awkward for him, he's holding his own, and it looks like he has the upper hand at least. With Octavius' turn coming to an end, that puts up Warrendell. You see Octavius charge forth with his spirit and angelic guardian, slamming into the creature. He takes it down with his warhammer, standing there with molten blood spewing on him, looking victorious. You look to your side and see that this Remmer has Harshnag kind of like entwined in the water and is trying to pull him under for dear life. What do you do?
Warren watches this all goes down, clearly unhappy that he is completely shit the bed on this. I can still see the Remor has with the giant, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So once again, he'll let this electricity course down his body and shoot out a bolt of electricity at this thing. Let's see. Maybe
you did it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, not too bad.
I just realized something though. Now that I think about it, not to steal your thunder, Shocking Grasp is a touch spell.
Oh shit! It is.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second.
Good call. All I did was look at the thing. Yeah.
No wonder why I was doing so poorly.
That's why I was missing, because you're trying to touch him from like 30 feet away.
No wonder it kept sputtering and
zapping.
All right.
See, I'll give you something else. I won't make you waste your turn, because obviously Warrendell would know that.
I was gonna say, can I just swap it over for Chromatic Orb? It would be the same bonus, same exact thing.
Sure.
And
definitely, and better damage for you.
But one of these is electricity. Not that one. That one. There. So in that case, there's 8, 9, 10, 11, same exact thing. So hey, didn't have to change a thing. All right, absolutely. I got it.
That's funny. All right, 12 more damage coming onto this thing though. It looks badly beat up, and so bad so that on its turn, its fight or flight instincts kick in. Knowing that it is lost the battle, it disengages and just tunnels down into the deep water, leaving you guys be. It's at that point, as the water kind of grows calm and Harshnag splashing around in the water, he doesn't seem bothered by the cold, that you hear the iceberg kind of that you're standing on completely crack, and it separates in two, putting Sir Beric, Sunlit, and Sirik on one side and the rest of the party on another. It kind of cracks, and there's only about 5 feet between the crack at the initial break. As you look around, the Rimmer has laying on the ice itself, you notice that the boat has kind of kept going with the current. And the boat is about 30 feet away from you guys now, past the broken iceberg that you stand yourself on, and is just flowing around in the current. You see that Harshnag is trying to swim, but he's kind of caught in a weird current pushing him the other way, so it's a little bit more difficult for him. We'll keep it in initiative and say that Sunlit is the first to have to deal with this issue.
Okay. How far? Okay, so I backed up away from the. Am I?
Yeah. So you're about like 60 feet away from the boat.
All right. Yeah. So I can't double my movement this turn because I already did last turn.
Yep.
So. All right. Can I roll that acrobatics check to see if I can at least move normally again?
Yep. You are able to move.
All right. So, how far across? You said 60 feet, right?
Yeah. So where you're standing, if you want to, I'll let you basically kind of run and jump onto another iceberg that's forward.
Mm-hmm.
This one by no means is flat and kind of convenient to walk on. So it's literally going to be like a jump and then just claw into it for dear life and hope that you don't sink down into the water. So it's up to you if you want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. How far away is the creature?
The creature is kind of he fell on the opposite side, so the side that the party's on, and he is about 20 feet from you.
She's very interested in that creature, and maybe if she can use some of the blood or anything like that to keep them warm.
Absolutely. Kind of a question. Do you want to catch the boat or do you want to secure the creature? Because it does look like it's going to start slipping into the water, obviously. The heat that it retains inside of its body still is glowing, piping hot.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. She is going to jump across to the other side of it. She is sick of being cold. She is very much interested in this creature more than that damn boat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's gonna go over there and see if she can maybe secure that creature and do so.
Yep. So how do you want to try to secure it, interestingly enough?
Okay. What she's going to do, how large is the creature itself?
It is a large size creature in the terms of its body size.
Is it more than 15 feet across at its head?
Probably pretty close to it.
Is it? Okay. Her first initial thought was that she jump over, plant the pointy end of her comma in one end of the ice, and then kind of run the chain across, and hopefully it would hold it in. Because if you put a rope on it, it's probably just gonna burn and go away. But she feels as if her chain wouldn't do so. So she's gonna try to do that. She's going to spike the pointy end into the ground, take her chain and kind of string it across it, and hopefully be able to
absolutely
use her strength to hold
so
it.
you kind of like wrap your chain around it and sink it into the ice as it is starting to melt away. Something that you realize is going to be a problem is you're going to have to kind of hold it up as it starts to sink into the water. Now you're going to guess that the water is going to kind of cut out a bit of the heaviness, but you question whether you're going to be able to hold the weight of this beast by yourself on a kind of melting iceberg. But as you look around, you do see a bunch of everyone kind of like standing around. But you definitely got to grapple on it. And next turn, you'll probably have to make some kind of strength check to hold it up.
She shouts out to the group. We may be able to use the blood of this creature to stay warm.
Staying warm sounds good to me. What'd you say?
And I'll toss you 3 vials so that you can put the blood into the vials and cork it or whatever.
Yeah, she didn't have any vials. She has a bucket though, but that's probably not going to work out well.
Sir Barrick runs over and just like, staying warm sounds good to me. And he comes over and grabs onto it with you. Belladora says, staying warm would be great, but if we don't have a boat, it's going to kind of get cold regardless. Next up is Livy.
Yeah, her thoughts are more for the boat, even though warmth sounds wonderful. But hey, they can penguin again, right? So I feel like she'd be going over towards the boat too.
All right, so the boat from you, since you were as far away from him, is about we're gonna say about 45 feet. Which moving on the ice for you is not, you don't have the handy dandy claws that Sunlit has, so you're gonna have to get tricky if you want to move good distances. Otherwise, you're stuck with difficult terrain. I don't know if you have anything up your sleeve to counteract that.
No. I guess in other words, she'll be making her way towards the boat, and I know that Sunlight has the one, and the others retreated. So I think she'd be on guard a little bit just in case, like another one or it returned or something, and so ready in action to attack, but like make her way towards the boat since like
all right,
get to it.
So, and you get to the edge of like where this iceberg that you're currently standing on are, and like you don't have enough movement anyways to jump to the next, but you know that if you're going to want to keep up with the boat, you're going to have to be moving forward, which results in jumping from iceberg to iceberg. But as for now, as you stand guard and ready, you know that you can't really move much further. Octavius, you're up next as Sir Barrick and Sunlit are like wrap a chain around and they're grabbing onto this beast. Warmth, we're going to get warmth. What do? Livy kind of runs off and try to get the boat.
I'll toss the vials over to Sonny, and then I'll look to Warrendale, and I'll be like, Warren, can you still do a thunder wave? I think I heard you do it once.
I can do that.
All right, so then Octavius will ask for Warrendale's aid and shield. And how big is the iceberg we're on right now?
Now that it's split in half, it's basically only 15 feet kind of long. It's like almost like a landing strip now. But heading.
Okay, so
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll jam my shield into the ice, and I'll look to Warrendale, and hopefully we can cast either duel or he can aid me in my thunder wave, and we can push the iceberg that we're on closer to the boat so that Livy can pounce onto it and get it for us.
Interesting.
I like this idea.
We'll see what happens as Octavius readies a thunder wave, looking at Warrendale. So are you like passing your shield to Livy? Sorry, to like jump over?
I'm kind of jamming it into the ice so that I can use it to brace myself against the iceberg to help it push the iceberg. You know what I mean? So like I actually have an anchor in the iceberg.
I got you. All right. Warrendale, what do you do?
Well, that depends. As much as I love your idea, and I look over at you, Octavius, and I'm like, yeah, we can do this. But if we get Livy under the boat, what is she going to do? So what is actually your plan, Livy? Are you somehow getting the boat back to us?
I can tie a rope around something. She's just like, I don't know. I just want to be on the boat and away from these foul beasts.
Yeah, so you remember that there's like a kind of mini anchor, or I guess not really the mini in terms of small folk, but there is an anchor in the ship that if someone would have thought of beforehand could have grabbed onto it. So you know that that's in there.
Okay. Yeah, she'd be like, anchor.
So you're just throwing the anchor. Would that stop the boat? I mean, assumingly?
It should. It's supposed to. That's what anchors are for. They're supposed to stop the boat.
All right.
Not much of a sailor, but I've read about them, so.
Lord, look over at Octavius. Look at the boat in the distance. How far away from it am I?
If you're going to ready yourself beside Octavius and Livy, are going to be roughly a good 30 feet away from the boat.
That's perfectly fine. Don't waste your spell, Octavius. It'll be okay. With that, I will cast Misty Step then to hop onto the boat for my bonus action. And for my action, throw the anchor if I can.
Now, yeah,
or thunder wave it to push it off.
It's pretty big anchor. For you not necessarily being a strong man, it's going to be an athletics check. And now the important question, as you look at the anchor, you see that it's kind of on this chain, and as you look at it, there's only about 50 feet of chain. So where do you want to throw the anchor? Just straight overboard, or as you're kind of going by, do you want to throw it at like a iceberg and hope that it'll catch?
I want to hit it onto an iceberg beside us if I can.
All right, so give me that athletics check, as Warrendale is very good in the arcane department, but his 10 strength might not be enough to lift a giant's anchor.
All right.
Better than Livy's.
Man, I so wish the thunder wave would have happened instead. I was going to give you guys a great time for that.
Well, athletics. Oh, I'm looking under. Okay, my bad.
You can do it.
All right, here we go. Yeah.
You hear Warrendale groan and grunt as he tries to lift the anchor. You get it up about halfway. So you're making progress. You're not like full on just not moving it at all, but it's like kind of like that weird thing. Like you're trying to pretend like it's awkward. Like, oh, I could lift this up if it wasn't just so awkward, but it's just really fucking heavy for you.
I got this. Don't you fight this way. My knees buckle a little bit.
Yeah.
Lightning drops in my drawers.
Yeah. Belladora kind of gives herself like a shake of her head, like, how disappointing. And then
so I guess our tutors would see that, and you'd have to think of a new plan real quick.
What's that? Sorry, Dan? I didn't hear that.
You know what?
I can do it. Don't you worry.
I have to think of a new plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie my hempen rope to an arrow, and or a bolt, sorry, and I'm going to fire that bolt as close to Warrendale onto the boat as I can.
All right. Yeah, we'll get you. We'll let you. Actually, we can hop over initiative at this point because Warrendale next turn will be able to do it. So it basically, with that being done, the boat gets another full turn away, so another 10 feet, putting it about 40 feet from you guys. But Octavius, you kind of step up and you shoot an arrow into the boat. Roll to see if you hit. Actually.
All right.
Damn, it's covered in ice. Slippery. I'll have it in a moment. Just give me a moment.
You say that, and as you look up, an arrow comes whizzing by your head with a rope on it. It misses the ship. Almost takes you out in the face.
Just hold your damn horses.
Yeah.
Or your crossbow bolts or something.
And nonetheless, Harshnag on his turn kind of swims over to the right current. And with that, by the time your turn comes around again, you're able to, with Harshnag's help, get it all sorted out. To which point, you do kind of like anchor into a iceberg. Now, there's not really any stopping on this sea. So you guys are going to have to be pretty quick because Harshnag basically is just using like an oar and the anchor to kind of like brace yourselves in between currents. But he just says, if you're going to be harvesting that thing, you're going to have to be quick. Now, there's some valuable parts on Remmer Hazes, so make sure you grab... and then he kind of starts listing off things that the legs are very good eats, so they taste really good. He'll tell you that I don't know what the hell to call the thing, but basically like the wingspan in between both of it. I know it's not wings, but what's that?
Brill?
Yeah, those things are great for like if you can break them off. They're great for like retaining heat and blocking wind. And he would say that their eyes have some great value to them. So it's up to you, Sunlit, what you want to try to harvest. And then obviously its blood is boiling hot. It's basically like magma. So up to you what you want to try to harvest. I'll give Sunlit first crack.
All right. So she hearing that those back pieces are good for warmth. That is exactly what she'll go for first. She's not interested in eating this thing, and
yeah,
he's never meant much to her anyway. So, yeah, that's what she's gonna try to do.
Give me a survival check.
Yeah, I figured that was going. Not a terrible thing for me. But it probably will be a bad roll. I had some good ones in a row. 14.
Yeah, 12 is enough to break off one of them. You're not able to get both, but you break off one, and it's a pretty big thing. And as you touch it, there's still like quite a bit of heat to it, and like it hurts, but at the same time, it's heat. So like you're just kind of it's hurting. Like, oh, it's a good hurt basically, just to feel warm finally.
Do I take any damage?
No, not at this point because you're not actually attacking it.
Okay.
It only comes from when you do like a melee attack on it. So yeah, you don't take any damage.
And then as a bonus of it's actively bleeding.
There's a couple spots where it's bleeding. Yeah.
I would like to attempt to try to bottle some of the blood to see if it's even possible.
All right, give me one more survival check.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the same.
You do get a vial, but it's so hot as you pour it in that you actually burn yourself and you take 6 fire damage.
Okay.
Even just from like the residual heat from the vial.
Yeah. You can hit me up on that. What she does is she puts it in her pack. Now it's okay. So it's okay. She wants to retain it because she thinks it's going to keep warmth for quite some time, but she doesn't know where to put it. So she originally starts putting it in her pack, and then she realizes it's too hot to put it in there, and then she tries to put it inside her cloak, and she realizes it's too hot there. So she just kind of lays it in the snow for a minute and lets it like cool down a little bit, like you would like an ember.
As you put it in the snow,
yeah,
the immense amount of heat and then the shocking cold cracks the vial.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a habit. Fuck.
It just cracks and mounts to the snow.
And she just curses at it in Tabaxi, and takes her wing and starts to mound back to the ship.
All right. So with you heading back to the ship, who else wants to? We'll say that Octavios and Livy, you are there if you want to try to harvest something from these things. As you look at it, the scales themselves look pretty impressive, and Sir Beric would tell you that a lot of smiths will make actually armor out of their scales because they're so resilient and heat resistant. So like they're really good conductors of heat. And then if you look at the eyes, you can tell that the eyes are almost like this beautiful sapphire blue, like glass crystal. And he would tell you that they're actually fairly valuable. And then, of course, the most important part he would tell you is that the legs are absolutely delicious. Does either one of you want to try to harvest anything from them?
I think Livy's a little hesitant and she doesn't
carving it up
again.
All right, Octavius, what are you going to try to break away from this thing?
I'll take some legs.
All right, give me a survival check.
That's only the first thing I'm taking.
Yeah, you're able to break off a total of 5 legs.
I'll put them in the pack for the group so that we can eat them later. I would also like to try to take the eyes.
All right. Time is kind of getting pressing now, and the thing is getting on. So I'll give you a quick disadvantage because the eyes are actually pretty tricky to get at. And as it's melting through the snow, and everyone's like, "Come on, Octavios, we don't have much longer." Give me a quick disadvantage check here. 12 is not quite enough to get any of its eyes, unfortunately.
Okay, and then I'll just start.
Sir Beric chops off a couple legs of himself. He gets a total of 3 legs. So between you guys, you have 8 legs. And Bellador is not interested. Siric's not interested. Eventually, it gets to a point. Actually, I'll give you, if you want to, Sunlit, you can push your luck and hold on to this creature one more time. Like, give me an athletics check if you want. And then Octavius might get another crack at the eyes if you want. But now it's up to you and Sir Beric to hold the creature if you're going to, because it's starting to fully fall into the water now, and you're actually having to like hold it, and it's the heat is still a lot. So it's up to you if you want to let the creature go and give Octavius another chance, or not push your luck and just get on the damn ship.
All right. All right. The piece that I ripped off. What advantage does that give us?
What he basically told you is it's really good at it's really heat resistant, so like you literally can't burn it. And so like you can already tell that like if you just like put this up against the wind, it blocks the wind and there's already a warmth from it, so you just kind of like, it's almost like a windshield that produces heat.
Okay. Yeah, she'll try to hold on to it, but she
Athletics check.
Yeah, it's fine. But she also wants to. Do I get advantage because it's Svardborg?
Sure.
All right. And she wants to get risky at the end of that and try to grab that other piece. Well, let's see
All
if
right.
I can.
If you're gonna literally, you and Barrick are gonna have to put your full effort into just holding this creature. So you can tell somebody else to get it if you want.
Yeah, it's shitty.
Even that, it's too much and it just slips away. And it's either be tugged into the water or let it go.
Yeah, she
Let it go.
likes her weapon. She likes her weapon far too much, and Svardborg at this point. So yeah, she
So yeah, the Rimmer has just sinks into the water.
Yeah, she lets go of her under the chain, and goes over and retrieves her weapon.
You see this bluish red creature kind of glowing hot as it sinks down into the deep water, this hole that it made through the ice. Harshnag kind of yells out in frustration, "We don't have much longer."
Okay, one last thing. I still have 2 vials that he gave me.
Yep.
I'm assuming that water is quite warm. That's sinking out of the water, and
where it is.
You know, I mean, she's just gonna take that and just kind of scoop up that water and have some nice warm water.
All right, you got some nice warm water. You scoop it up really quickly, and everyone starts to head to the ship.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you hop on, and finally, one of the oars starts to crack, so he kind of lets go, and you kind of come out of limbo in this current and start going forward again. Luckily, the ship not really taking any much damage since you guys jumped out of the ship and battled on ice. So at this point, it's still like way too early in the morning for this. Hours go by again if anyone wants a short rest. So yeah, you can all short rest if short resting was what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get some. All right. Well, it's a little bit.
Octavius will cast off his quick armor, and while the rest of the group, he'll take a couple of lashes.
A couple lashes, okay.
Lovely. While we're doing that, she's very enamored by her windshield or whatever it is.
Yeah, so you put that up where the wind is. And the warmth stays for a pretty long time, but I'm going to say you guys are sailing for about 3 hours and the warmth starts to go away, but it still blocks the wind. As you kind of like start to question whether it's worth it. We'll say that Sir Barrick speaks up and just tells Warrendell, if he's interested, good sir, that if you just have any kind of fire, can you make fire? And this is to Warren.
Sir Barrick.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of.
All right. Well, either one of you, if you can just blast some fire into that wing, I assure you that there's no way that you can harm it. It is completely resistant or immune to fire, and you'll just heat that thing back up.
And she puts her hand on it and spends 2 key points to use Burning Hand.
Right.
Well, searing.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, if you do that, you boil it back up to like piping hot again. And again, so not only does it completely block from wind and kind of like shelter you from that cold, but it retains heat for hours. So it is definitely finally almost like this little wind-like sun shield now that is producing heat and blocking the wind.
Yeah,
you guys.
She definitely finally feels warmth for the first time in a long time, and this is her new best friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Sir Barrick starts cooking up some of the legs and asks Octavius if he wants his legs cooked up too. The thing gets like so piping hot that you can actually like kind of like put them on sticks and then just like literally push it against the wing and start grilling it up.
Okay.
Yeah, Octavius will agree, and he'll state some fact that cooking your meat helps it last longer, blah, 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 in Octavius fashion.
Yeah, so you guys have 8 legs between the 2 of you, and there's how many in your party? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 exactly. So Harshnag says he's fine, actually. He's not that hungry, and it's literally like the size of his pinky anyways. So, but anyone who's going to all eat some of these Rimmer has legs.
Why not?
I am.
Yeah,
you chomp into them, and they're piping hot. but actually quite delicious. And as you eat them, you just feel it kind of go down your throat and into your belly, and it just this heat kind of just stays on it. And for the next 8 hours, everyone has resistance to cold.
Oh, good.
We need more legs.
As you guys ate all your legs except one.
Tastes like crab.
So
I'm thinking the same thing.
But the yeah, so there's certainly something that she would do. I would like to have done that before I took my short rest, so I can get my key points back.
sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
The brain thing and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it works for me. You're like sailing for like hours anyways, so you could
Okay.
do that short rest. Do it
Yeah,
again, short rest.
she just needs to have 30 minutes, and then she can meditate and get it back.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's about 6 hours now of sailing. And then through the endless sea of moving ice, the shifting and flowing chunks of these frozen rocks, some as large as small islands, others the size of like small mountains, some basically the size of your ship, everything in between moves around you in every which direction. You see one in the distance. This one is absolutely monstrous, and it kind of towers against the horizon, almost encompassing it. You see that this one mountain-sized iceberg, it sits among the sheets, stagnant. And as your ship kind of gets closer in proximity, hundreds of feet away still, suddenly the currents stop moving, and your ship comes out, and for the first time, kind of slowly comes to a stop. The ice chunks kind of all are like being sucked away from here. It seems like this is like some kind of like stopping point, and the current is pulling it away and whatnot, or pushing some chunks out into it, which kind of drift and come to a stop. But you see jagged edges that protrude and reach towards the sky in unnatural ways coming from this iceberg. And as you start to draw nearer, about 300 feet away, you see that the iceberg has grayish white colors with shades of brown. And these shades of brown are actually wood. These ice fortresses, or this ice fortress has been entombed. You see like buildings kind of swallowed by this icy mountain. They're absolutely massive, almost cathedral size, like the size of massive churches. But as you get a good look at them, they look like hunting, almost kind of primal hunting and fishing lodges. About 300 feet away, after roughly 6 hours, you finally catch your first look at Svardborg. Show you a quick picture of what you guys see. Basically, these giant fishing huts entombed in ice in this absolutely massive size iceberg. The current finally stops pulling you guys, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Harshnag obviously says, "We are now here. What we do next must be discussed. I think we should ride out on the coast and at least watch and see what's going on in there. What do you all think?"
You're the expert here.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It is your home. You will know best.
As you see it, the mountain itself is multiple hundreds of feet high. It's also pretty damn wide. There is a cliffside that kind of doesn't, it's about 50 feet until it becomes level with these huts, these fishing lodges that the giants have made. You see this cleft in the side of one of it, this little hole with a chain going across from it. And when I say little hole, in your spectrum of things, it's a pretty massive hole. And as you peek in, you kind of see like the tip of a ship inside. He kind of posts up and begins to talk to you about what you guys should do. And he says that even in the best case scenario, Even if Strolvad is not there, he's going to have some giants standing guard. Now, I know Sunlit, and you guys have all seen what giants are capable of. The one that fought you, Sunlit, wasn't even a particularly strong giant, no offense. Not trying to insult any of you. What I'm saying is, charging in here, guns blazing.
Is a death sentence.
Indeed. Now, I don't claim to be any master technician of combat. Usually, I solve my problems with Gert. This is where I ask you guys, small folk, who maybe are a little bit better at not being seen, what you think we should do next.
That's our only.
Is there a sewer?
To be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about this place. Before our settlements were destroyed, this was merely just a fishing and whaling lodge where we would come to visit as small children. Our father took us here. But now that most of our settlements have been destroyed, this is one of the only places that aren't really that bad of shape, but I haven't been here in 100 of years. I barely remember it. I'm sorry.
And if I remember correctly, you said that you're an enemy of these people at this point. Is that correct?
I was outcasted long ago by my father. He has since passed away, and Strolvad has taken over.
Your father is the ex-leader, though.
Yes.
No,
We're not-
no way.
Absolutely not. He's the one that outcasted me. I did not see the way that the Frost Giants believe in raiding those who are weaker than them.
Yes.
The Frost Giant are a proud people, yet they strike down those who are weaker than them. Does not make sense to me.
Very smart
Do you-
man.
Do you know the layout or where we're going? What do we need to go for?
From what I can remember, he points at the cleft, kind of like this hole in the wall where the chain is. That's where they keep a lot of their ships. Now, we don't have a whole lot, and they don't have a whole lot anymore from what I can remember. A lot were destroyed. I know there's the Krigvin, which is one of the fastest ships on the ocean. It's enchanted by some kind of magical artifact. And if that's there, then we'll be in big trouble, because that means my brother will be there. Now inside, and he kind of explained to you, I don't really know how to say this, but it's basically donut shaped. So if you, inside there's like this hole of water where they'll keep a couple of their ships. He points at the one that's kind of to the south and says that that building right there is the kind of dry dock lodge. And you see that in front of it are these wooden docks that are made, and where most of the buildings are 50 feet high up above these cliffs, the docks are only about 10 feet high, and there's ladders that go up into this first building. Actually, I can show you a picture of the map really quickly if you guys give me a quick second here, just because it's kind of hard to explain it. Let me do this. Player's map. And he can basically give you a very rough kind of description of the layout, what you guys can mostly see, but he has really no clue what's going to be inside any of the buildings or whatnot. So the docks towards the southeast, those two little brown things kind of sticking out, that is the dry dock area. And he says like that's probably the easiest way to climb up. That cleft there with the chain going between it, they usually keep that chain there to block any unwanted ships coming through. And then other than that, I don't really know a whole lot. Now, I know there is a temple dedicated to Thrym, and then there's the Jarl's Lodge, which is where obviously the Jarl kind of hangs out, and there's a giant feast hall in there. I remember that much.
The Jarl's his brother, correct?
Yes.
Those chain links, do they look to be our size?
Oh no, giant size. Everything you see from this point on is going to be giant size unless specified otherwise. So it's going to be absolutely huge.
I'm not saying that, but the actual link itself, is it the size of a human?
Nope. Or like, yeah, literally the links are like human size.
Okay, that's
Like,
what I meant. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
like
They're massive.
yeah. So do they look climbable for her?
If you could get up to them, yes. But they definitely look like climbable easily because they're so big.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, I know Harshnag, I didn't make a good impression on the first go around there, but I really am quite the stealthy girl here. I know that as a group of 8 of us, trying to have all of us become stealthy is not ideal, but
I am not very good at this thing you call stealth.
yes,
I'll be very honest about it.
well, you're massive, but
I fear that if I send you guys in, then if you do get caught,
yes,
it's very little.
and also this. I guess the next question is: do we want to make sure that your brother's ship isn't here?
I say we case the place out a bit. You guys are still probably a bit tired from that fight.
Yeah.
We've already been sailing for 6 hours, so what's another 2? If we just kind of sit and watch, maybe we'll see coming and going. Maybe we can send out a scout of some kind. I don't know.
I think when we move in, perhaps some sort of distraction. If we know where we need to go.
That's the next problem. Where he's keeping this Oracle's lens. I don't know if he'll have.
Perhaps the hall. Wouldn't that be the most obvious?
Suppose that it's quite logical that he might keep his most prized possessions, yes, at the lodge, at the Jarl's lodge. But I also wonder if an item like that, who is dedicated to the gods, there is a temple dedicated to the gods. I feel like between the
display.
Is that sorry?
I think it'd be on display. Back in Mazteca, our most precious relics we have on display in our temples.
Belladora kind of speaks up. Well, if there's 2 different possibilities, and like you said, a bunch of us, might it be best that we go in small groups and split up?
No, Bellador. Splitting the party is always instantaneous death.
There is a song about it I heard once.
It's a real catchy song, too, isn't it? Split the party and everyone dies.
I think I wrote it.
Help us cover ground faster, though, but there is the risk of if one of us gets in trouble.
There's the risk. But
like the song says. Yes.
But like you said, Sunlit, as a group of 8, what chance do we really have of being stealthy? We already knew this was a suicide mission, she says.
Yeah, and that's what I'm afraid of.
Send me in. I don't mind. I'll go look and see what I see. Maybe you guys just park at the dock. I'll run in really quickly.
Does any of us
Well,
invisibility?
I almost took that, but I didn't.
Yeah,
Hindsight. Belladora would say that she's no stranger to sneaking around. But
neither do I, there, Belladora.
whether who uses better would be up for discussion.
Yeah.
That's
Sonny would definitely volunteer to go with her.
all right. Between the 2 of us, me and you, we get a quick look. We come back. We finish dressing up.
I think.
Yeah, and does anyone have any other ideas or plans?
Makes sense to me.
Libby just kind of chuckles to herself a little bit, like, I suppose we could set a building on fire. That would get all their attention there.
I can do that.
I'm not being serious. I'm not being serious.
Like, aren't we trying not to get their attention? Isn't that the whole thing here? Not go detected by the giants?
Yes. But the attention wouldn't be on us necessarily, it'd be on the burning building. But still, it's a humoring thought.
Yeah. So, with that, you guys can rest because you literally only have like an hour and a half before you get a long rest. So if you guys want to just like case the place for an hour and a half and see if you see anything, or you guys can just go right in and see what happens. Up to you.
I would like to take the hour and a half to get the hour, to get the long rest per se.
Yep.
And then try the stealthy look around thing with Belladora after we're done with that.
All right. So, what did you want to say, Octavius?
I'll just hang out. Oh wait, the hour and a half.
So you wait the hour and a half. Everyone gets a long rest. I can do that from here, so don't worry about undoing things. I'll just long rest.
I have one thought, and I'm sorry if this was already mentioned, but from how this map looks, and we're on a boat. How is it we haven't been seen yet already?
Harshnag kind of.
Livy's just like, so are you guys just going to swim and go look around? Like, because they're going to.
We're still alive, and I don't hear any sounds of warning. Now, one thing frost giants aren't really about is traps and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Speaking from experience, if they would have seen us, they would have charged out and destroyed us in straight up combat.
Okay.
Our people are proud, and they love to insert their power over those who dare challenge it.
What?
They might see us, but I doubt it. So, an hour and a half goes by. Everyone give me a perception check. So only the 17 and the 18, Livy and Warren, you don't guys necessarily see anything, but as you kind of just like on the outskirts, and keep in mind, another reason they might not have seen you, Livy, is because you're actually still like 300 feet out. Like you're keeping a pretty decent distance from it. Obviously, even though I showed you the whole map, you wouldn't see what's inside the hole itself.
Yeah.
So you kind of wait on the outskirts for an hour and a half. You don't hear anything or see anything, but Livy and Warren Dell, you hear like the sound of like metal hitting ice kind of over and over again, like tink, 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 and like rapid. Like it sounds like a bunch of it, like going off all at once.
All right. I think
it's kind of just echoing out into the ocean because it's obviously like just this big, kind of massive area, and it's really quiet. So you just kind of hear that kind of gently going out.
I think she just casually mentioned to Harshnag, just like, are they building or
forging weapons, maybe?
Well, it's one thing that giants do like to do is take trinkets of the enemies that they defeated and make them into weapons and whatnot. So maybe, but it kind of sounds too puny to me. And it doesn't necessarily sound like big slamming. It's like little kind of like tink, 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 tink. Like something like multiple things are hammering away, but there's really like other than hearing it. So definitely there's something like activity going on in there, but you guys can't see it. You wait for an hour and a half and it kind of just doesn't really cease. Belladora kind of looks at you, Sunlit, and well, are we going to do this, my sneaky friend?
I'm very interested. But we don't have to swim in the water, right?
No.
Okay, good.
I hope not, because my hair, it's just really nice today. I don't want to get it wet.
I agree.
Harshnag would kind of paddle you guys up just really slowly, basically coming to along a side. You can see that some buildings are completely swallowed by it, so you can kind of like paddle up and come from an angle where there's no buildings openly looking up to you, and you push yourselves up to against the big 50-foot cliff of ice and slowly come from the east down towards the south where the docks are. So right in, if you guys still have the map open, right down there is where you come in. And there's these giant size wooden docks that are absolutely massive. You kind of claw out Harshnag looks at you all, looks at you two, and just remember, just a quick look, survey the scene. Don't go too far. Come back and tell us what you see.
Are there any boats there at that dock already?
No, not at this dock.
Okay.
All right. So you two sneak up, and you come up to your first building, and keeping in mind now that everything you see is like the size of giant accessibility. It's not small folk friendly. You come up to your first massive wooden cabin, and it has this huge double door. You're kind of slowly coming up these steps, and as you do, the steps themselves are actually like 3 feet high. So it's literally like you actually have to kind of climb up them instead of stepping up them. So it's difficult terrain as you do so. But it takes you a little bit of time. You climb up these steps up to 50 feet and come up to your first wooden hut. And what you see is that the kind of peaks of the roof actually have dragon skulls kind of mounted on them. And that weird kind of jagged pointing up towards the sky thing is actually the skulls of like dragons and other kind of enemies that they've defeated and just mounted on their cabins. This is where your first stealth check will come into play.
Okay. I mean, so anything that has to do with climbing, I do have a 20-foot climbing speed as well.
Yep. Yeah, so you're actually able to climb pretty decently.
Yeah, that would have been pretty easy. All right, let's go, Belladora. Please don't fuck me. Oh, that's not bad.
You do pretty good, but Belladora is actually struggling on the ice a bit, we'll say, just because of how bad I rolled, not because anything side effect, but she actually rolled pretty terribly. But you come up to the first thing, and she's kind of like slipping and sliding around, like, oh, this is a little trickier than I thought. You just kind of like look over and just like shh. To which you come up to your first building, and there's no door on this one. It's actually like this absolutely massive open cabin lodge, and you look in, and it's completely, as you look around, unoccupied. What you see is a bunch of human-sized tents scattered all around in here. You hear the sound of like metal hitting ice kind of over and over again in the distance. You hear the sound of two booming voices. Speaking giant, they're kind of like bickering, but it doesn't sound serious. And you hear like then the sound of something just soaring through the air, and then a large smashing sound. And then a giant kind of retorts. You can't really hear what they're saying because it's kind of like muffled. And as you look inside, you see in this building the frame of a massive boat. It's not put together or anything. It's literally just the frame of it. In the middle of the building with all these human-sized tents kind of scattered around. You see empty kegs and whatnot all in this. But as you're looking around, the building seems completely empty.
I don't see any humans, but I see the remnants of what humans.
You see like human tents by the looks of it. And as you go in, you see that there's like fur pelts and whatnot, and they're all human size.
Is there, what time of the day is it?
It is daytime. About like 2 o'clock.
Okay, so it's not like it's nighttime where they would be sleeping.
No. And as you look across, the building is let's say like hundreds of feet long, and this boat is also like hundreds of feet long. But at the end, on the opposite side, completely north, you see like this barrel chute that would be used for like offloading or onloading a boat. This boat that you're looking at doesn't look saleable at all because there's literally like no foundation to it. It's just the frame. And there's a massive crane holding it up.
But it looks like a dry dock, basically.
Yes, it is a dry dock. Absolutely. As you look inside the tents, there's like smoldering campfires. You see crude bed rolls and a few scattered fish bones. Doesn't look like the people like living here really care much about cleanliness. Everything's just kind of thrown everywhere.
Well, looks as if they're building a ship. To me, looks like a dock.
Mm-hmm. As you look up, the ceiling itself is 30 feet or 40 feet high, but 30 feet up, there's like these wooden rafters. So like picture like a wooden log lodge. So like there's the rafters. Shall we go further? Doesn't seem like there's anyone here.
Yeah, it's not the most interesting area.
I hear the sounds of giants fighting or something, though.
Yes.
Let's go see what it is.
I couldn't quite understand them because it was muffled more than anything. Yeah, we can make our way in a bit.
Okay, so you guys move up further. This is another stealth check.
Yep.
This time, Belladora, now that she's on solid ground. You both come into the dry dock lodge and kind of to the outskirts, which now looks inside of the kind of donut of this water. And what you see are two fully functional sailing giant long ships. So these ships are like 120 feet long, and standing on each of these ships is a frost giant. And you hear one kind of like, it sounds like he's laughing, but at the same time, a bit pissed. And since you speak giant, he's basically in giant calling the other giant an idiot and saying that his aim is worse than his dead mother's. And then he reaches behind him and slams his great axe into the ice behind him and takes out a chunk of ice and then bends over and picks it up and hucks the massive thing of ice over at the other giant, who like takes his great axe and smashes it away like a bat. And they both start to like kind of laugh at each other and throw insults. Across, you see another ship that is half entombed by ice, and there's these ropes that are kind of pinned into the ice that's entombing this ship. And you see about, let me see here. You see 18 humanoid-like creatures in fur pelts. You can't really tell what they are, but they're human-sized in fur pelts, chipping away at the ice that entombs this one ship.
Is that the ting 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 ting?
Yes. And you also see that they're chunking away ice and kind of dropping it into like little punts. So the ships that you guys sailed away in, and there's these yetis, 4 of them, that are grabbing big chunks of ice and kind of throwing it into the punt that the fur pelt people are knocking off. And then there's another giant kind of laying around lazily in the half entombed ship. So you see 3 frost giants, 18 fur pelt humanoids, and 4 yetis.
All right. Where do I see the temple being?
Give me a perception check.
Okay.
$19.
Oh, I rolled insight, but it's the same. It's the same number.
Yep, and we'll say that. So, you still have the map open?
Yes.
This building right here, we'll say, it's kind of half buried in ice. There's like a front door that's kind of like still exposed, which is looking inside the donut. And then you can look above and see that half of it on the outside is not covered in ice also. You see that has some kind of symbol on it, and it's written in giant, which luckily for you, you speak. So I'm going to need you to make a religion check to see if you recognize it as a religious symbol or not.
The religion I am
Yeah, you're not quite sure, although you have a feeling that you're obviously like no versed in giant deities, so you don't know, but it's something about Ison, which is another giant rune that you now kind of like are putting together how the giant language works. They write in runes, so you kind of see that one has like the Ison rune written on it, and then some other rune that you don't can I
transcribe it onto something so I can show it to Harsnig?
Yep.
I'd like to do that, and then what I'd like to do next with her idea is I'd like to go around the back side of these buildings. You know what I mean? So I don't want to go across the front.
So basically the side that's looking out into the water then?
Yeah, like, I wish I could draw onto this picture, but I can't.
Yeah, only I can. I know what you mean. You're talking about like this way, right?
Yeah, like that.
All right. Now the tricky thing about that is that once you get to like past this little building, it'll literally be like climbing on the side of a mountain, like an icy mountain, which to you isn't necessarily the biggest deal. It's still going to be a check because it is like sheer ice, unless you have climbing gear.
Yeah, but to her,
it's going to be near impossible without climbing gear, which she doesn't have on her.
right.
The chain, which is right to the left of the dry docks, is much more obviously easy to climb. So up to you.
Yeah. I looked at Beldor and I go, I really feel as if I could climb across that quite easy. I am a bit interested to see what that, because that building here over to the left is the largest building out of all of them, isn't it?
This one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is absolutely massive.
Yeah.
In comparison.
And then the second largest being, oops, I just didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, the one to the southeast.
Yeah. The one that
or northeast.
Kind of thought is the temple. Okay, so yeah, I would very much like to go across that chain and maybe see if I can see anything in that building. If you don't feel comfortable, then I understand.
Yeah, I say you're right. Let's climb across the chain really quickly, see what we see, and then maybe get back to the group.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. I think that's the temple over there. I really do.
Yeah, the symbol, I recognize the rune also, but I can't figure out the other one. And she sees that you write it down, so she'll say Harshnag will probably know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys kind of sneak back out, obviously seeing the inner workings of this place, what you see, and then you kind of come back across. The chain itself is big enough so that when you take time, I'm going to say that there's no check involved. Obviously, if it was like a stressful situation, you might have to check, but you can just like be slow about it and kind of shimmy across quietly. To which I'll get you to make one more stealth check as you peek inside this last big building.
Yep. Big roll. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
All right, so as you climb across, you see that it's 3 stories high. It's partially buried under ice, but it has a bunch of actually access points to it. There's a main door, and then there's a couple of like side tunnels through the ice that cut in that are obviously giant in size, so pretty massive for you, that lead into like a couple side doors. You look in, and this door is actually shut on it, and the door is a double 25-foot tall door. So the door handles are actually 11 feet up. She says, if you boost me up, I can probably unlatch it, and then maybe I'll be able to push it.
Yeah, because I'm 6'3".
Yeah, so you can boost her up, and she will kind of reach up and grab onto like the handle and pull it down slowly, and then it's up to you to give it a push. You actually need an athletics check to push open these doors.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I know I'm going to say that you're assumingly like you're not kicking it open or anything. I'll just assume that you're trying to do so quietly.
I'm trying to do it quietly. I think with a 25 stealth.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. So you kind of push it open just a smidge. And what you open up into is a absolutely massive feasting or gathering hall. You see 6 super big tables, one of which is in the center, is this massive long table, and then a couple other circular tables, all like bigger than you. You look around and you see stairs, or actually you see kind of it carries on for about, we'll say 100 feet by the looks of it. There's one table that's kind of cut into an alcove, and it has like this big massive like single head looking table. And then towards the west, you see 2 other giant sized doors, one that's like southwest and one that's northwest. And then you see a bunch of like a side wall towards the south, and curtains kind of covering little doors or whatnot. As you peek inside, you see that there is a mammoth, dead and half frozen, hooked into a chain that's kind of dangling almost like a chandelier, and there's pieces of it ripped away.
Just barbaric here.
Well, Harshnag did say that the frost giants are quite like that. They, I guess, live up to their reputation.
Yeah, it's just eye-opening. So I think
Looks like a feasting hall to me. Didn't Harshnag say that the Jarl's Lodge has a feasting hall in the center of it?
yes, and I think this is it.
So yeah, the
Well,
moral of the story is you're kind of casing the place. You
yeah,
see those 3 frost giants and the fur coat people, but you don't see any massive like giant long ship that looks in particular. Harshnag would have described to you what the
yeah,
Krigvid looked like,
yeah,
and you don't see anything that's matching that. So you get the sense that their main ship and maybe some of their other fleet is not here. Because you
yeah,
look into this lodge and you don't see any giants
yeah,
or anything actually on the main level either. You can push in further and push your luck if you want, but Belladora is saying like we got a pretty good idea here. We can kind of explain to what Harshnag what we've seen and go back.
yeah. Sonny definitely agrees with that. And yeah, I mean, she pushes on definitely with great stealth and timing just to make sure that we're not pushing her luck.
Yep. So then with that, you head back to the ship. It's about you guys take, I'm going to say about just enough time to get you guys on the ship kind of uncomfortable. So like 25 to 30 minutes. And then finally you see them starting to make their way down the giant stairs and onto the dock. So Harshnag kind of paddles back out because he tucked himself behind the cliffside. He kind of paddles back out and explains to you guys what you see. So I'm assuming show him the runes or whatever.
Yes.
So he will tell you. Let me actually pull up a thing, and we're gonna end pretty soon. We're at that time. Didn't get quite as far as I wanted to, but that's okay. Where is it? Giant runes. So I'll share this to you again. And now you have uncovered what the ice rune looks like, which you've already actually uncovered. And you actually see the rune for, I don't see it actually on here, but the rune for God. So it says ice god.
Okay.
So yeah, you get the sense that that one's probably the temple.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, with that, you tell him that. He kind of tucks himself back so you guys can kind of talk in secret.
Right.
And then he asks,
One major question.
what's up?
Is it customary for them to encase all their things in ice?
Yes, frost giants actually don't believe in cooking their meat. We eat it raw and frozen.
But would you also encase some of your boats in ice?
No.
Well, there's some humanoid-looking creatures, about maybe 20 or so, and also 3 frost giants, one of which is very lazy watching humanoids work, and then 2 that are playing what looks almost like a game of I can outdo you, maybe. And that's all we really see in the whole village, but they have the humanoids, looks like they're, for lack of a better term, they're excavating a ship. But
yeah, so he would explain that it's not uncommon for giants to take on, or frost giants to take on slaves. So
yes.
the people you see might actually be servants to them. And
But why would their ship be encased in snow and ice like that?
he would say that maybe they're in need of another ship. You see that he would tell you that Svardborg was abandoned for a pretty long time. So maybe the weather has just kind of taken its toll.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then over to the left, like you said, there's the meeting hall, and it's.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what the other buildings will be, but I think if we have a bet of finding the Oracle's lens, they'll be in his lodge or the temple.
How big is this lens?
It's about a giant-sized talisman, but it's imbued with magic, so it will shape to the owner, whoever in tunes with it.
Oh. Wonderful. Okay.
So with that, he asked the rest of the group how you guys want to proceed. So before we end, we'll come up with our, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to stick together? He asked, he's going to actually ask Octavius, should we stick together or split up? I fear that if I come with you, that I will not be as quiet as you guys could be. But I also fear that if I don't come out with you, that you'll be in grave danger.
I hate to say it, but I think we just sent the perfect team. If the medallion will fit to their hands, then maybe Belladora and Sunny should go back and just get it at night.
It's not a bad idea, Octavius. They're going to have to sleep. We've even seen Harsnag do so. I really think that bringing some security, though, might not be a bad idea. Maybe not you that goes clangety clang clang.
Or at least have a way to signal if you need help, like setting up a flare of sorts.
Not bad. I could shoot off one of my bolts. That wouldn't be an issue. So show in light.
Belladora kind of speaks up and says, usually I'm one to go for the whole sneaking around at nighttime, but looking at those three giants and the people that are working for them, they seem quite a bit preoccupied. Whereas, like, when we peeked in the buildings, we didn't really see anyone there. So maybe while they're actually working is actually our best bet.
Yeah, it was oddly barren.
Yeah. Harshnag would explain to you that if there's one thing frost giants hate, it's like kind of staying put. They love going out on these voyages and like raiding and pillaging. So like usually the ones that have to stay back, it's often like kind of like a punishment. Whoever didn't pull their weight in the last raid gets stuck back on like guard duty. So it's not uncommon for them to get like bored, and like frost giants' defenses when they have fortresses aren't necessarily known for being like super uptight Alcatrazes.
Yeah.
Now, if the fleet comes back, it'll be a different story.
Then I guess we should do this post haste, so the fleet doesn't come back.
We could be on watch duty for that and send up our own flare.
Yeah. So with that, it is basically time to shut her down. So I guess we'll give you guys a couple of weeks, depending on the game time, to come up with a strategy. And then we'll actually get into this place. So other than that, again, thanks for playing, guys. Thanks for watching, anyone who checked us out. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
See you.
Thanks.